Hi, everybody. Um, so I wanted to get into the whole presumption of innocence debates that hopefully will. The thing is there's lots and lots of cases out there, and everybody's screaming for their rights while denying others the same rights of presumption of innocence in these criminal cases or in any of the cases, um, criminal or civil. But workers' rights, tenants' rights, citizen rights. I mean, it just, this is not what this country was created to be. And it goes back to the founding fathers. It goes, our Constitution. Just one of the people who just angers me so much is Tiffany Justice, head of Moms for Liberty. They pass out all sorts of paraphernalia about the Constitution. Everybody talks about human rights. I mean, when I've had it podcasts, Jennifer Welch, she starts on about human rights for LGBT. And everybody else goes, screw yourself. Kerry Kennedy is pulling the same crap with the RFK human rights. I got to do a deep dive on her and that whole organization. I mean, the UN is doing this, the World Bank is doing this, the IMF, all of the nonprofits in Washington. It is just a cesspool. In the meantime, these celebrities play prima donna and say, oh, what about my rights? What about my rights? Well, if you would pay attention to what was been going on, instead of going out and getting laid and doing lots of drugs, then we wouldn't be here. So the thing is, so let's first, I'm going to read this because he talks about it. So in the Russell Brand lawsuit, there's a, oh, that's not the one I was looking for. Oh, did I? Yeah, here it is. This article. So the presumption of innocence, a legal perspective. So you have the timeline. I mean, I won't go into that. Basically, Russell Brand, yeah, oh my God, humping like rabbits all over the place, having sex every which way with everybody, but it's all consensual. And I totally believe him. I totally believe him because I'm not a brain dead idiot and I see what's going on around me. I mean, that's been going on since Elvis Presley and the Beatles. I mean, I think it was part of the whole psyop. If you follow all of the MK Ultra and how the liberal movement of the 60s and 70s, while there were a few people who took it seriously and were, wanted to implement workers' rights. This is what this country was founded on. Then the robber baron era heirs, or robber baron bankers and industrialists, took power in the 1800s and totally transformed the country into the British aristocracy, or run by, oligarchy, just like in Britain. And unfortunately, in the the American Revolution, because I mean the whole thing, that's a whole history that needs to be looked into and debunked, a lot of stuff. But you already had the the degradation of the rights of the monarch and the aristocracy self-destructing when the American Revolution happened. And that's what our, the wealthy just became new aristocracy. But those weren't, if you look at all of these names and the families, it was mainly families who came in, the Astors, the Vanderbilts, the Mellons, all of these families came in after the American Revolution to cash in on the expansionism, the Western expansion. It's always been about economics. I mean, Candace says her husband, he studied theology, I guess, because everything's about ideologies or theology. I'm like, yeah, but most people are just motivated by their greed and their jealousies and their dysfunctional behavior. So, most people are just, and they're just pawns. And a few people at the top who even they are not not guided by ideology. They're divided by greed. If you actually get into ideological debates with either side, they expose what hypocrites they are. That's what it's so interesting to watch the Gary Melton versus the Candace Owens stuff. I mean, Gary Melton, it's incredible, but it's no different than, some Stepford wife in a country club who's going to come up with the most incredible justifications for amoral and illegal behavior that you've ever heard in your life. You'll be like, what planet have you been? Like, you dumb bimbo. Unfortunately, with Gary Melton, I mean, this guy's military. And what he wants is to protect and defend the military-industrial complex, not the U.S. Constitution or rule of law. And unfortunately, this is, where we're going to end up in a bloodbath between the military, like Gary, who wants to maintain and protect the oligarchs and the corruption that maintains them in power, and his adversaries, like I mean, in this case, it's Candace. Because see, I mean, I love it how they're like, presumption of innocence for Erica, presumption of innocence for Erica Kirk. And I mean, her behavior is just so bizarre. I mean, the thing is this, yeah, it's psychopathic, but that's why apparently the problem is it's not bizarre. Amongst the 10%ers who want to become the 1%ers, and the 1%ers, oh Lord, 1%ers, you either become a psychopath or a drug addict. That's, I mean, because these people are ruthless. And all the 10%ers who aspire, they become rich and famous, knowing full well that they're all not going to arrive, but they're going to scratch and stab each other in the back on their way up, just the same. And, for them, it's kind of like, well, winner take all. I keep on telling them that they're really in a bind because as the Nazis rightfully claimed after World War II in the Nuremberg trials, that what they had done was not illegal. And they're right. I mean, go back into the Nuremberg trials. I know that's very politically incorrect, but they were correct. There was nothing, you know, they had the right to do what they passed these different laws in Germany, and that was protected under the sovereign rights of Germany. Now, when they started invading Poland, that's when they got into trouble because people didn't, I don't know, were afraid they'd become next. But that was the only reason that anybody had any problem with Hitler. So I don't know there, I forget who brought this theory up, but it's an interesting theory, and it kind of makes sense. That the Third Reich was planned to fail. And then you would get the Fourth Reich. That way you would move it to the United States. Because the Fourth Reich, goes back to the Roman Empire. And that it would come to and be built in the United States. And that's why we're in the Fourth Reich. So, and that would have been Rothschild and I guess others. But this is a mistake people are making. The Rothschilds, of course, sometimes they were working in league with monarchs, but for the most part, in the power struggles, the Machiavellian games, the bankers and the industrialists are allied against the monarchs. The monarchs are the ones who are supposed to be controlling the industrialists and making sure they don't get out of hand. I mean, this is where we get the concept of Camelot, and they want a Camelot with Kerry Kennedy and Andrew Cuomo. What's wrong with that picture? The Cuomo family is part of the reason New York is in the problems that it is, and Kerry and her mother and all the women in the Kennedy family are responsible for a lot of things that are going on in Washington and LA. I mean, we just did Patrick Schwarzenegger. His mother is a Shriver, Maria Shriver, whose mother was a Kennedy, JFK, RFK's sister. I mean, the reason that the Kennedys, Kerry Kennedy, Caroline, I call them the new KKK, the Kerry Kennedy clan, just trashed their brother was pure jealousy. These people don't give a hoot's ass about this country or the world. All they want is to have yet another party. It's coming out. You look with TPUSA, all of these opulent parties that are going on, and sex all over the place. Everybody's sleeping with everybody. So see this is the Christian right. This is Russell Brand. At least you go, well, Russell Brand. This was the the liberal actors from Hollywood. They've always been like that. Even when before they got to Hollywood. And their origins is like gypsies and stuff, because that's where the actresses, in antiquity, well, many centuries ago, was Cher even has a really good song about that. Gypsies, tramps, and thieves. Carmen, the opera Carmen. So let's listen to what they. Okay, consent and conspiracy claims. I mean, yeah, these were consensual acts. Everybody was there. Everybody knew what was going on. I mean, it was a fuckathon. I remember a friend of mine, his he called her his cousin. I mean, they weren't blood cousins, but their mothers have been very, very good friends. And she's coming through Washington and stays with us. I always had male gay roommates. They're easier, men are easier to live with than women. And for the most part. And then with gay men, there's no, complications. So anyway, she's coming through, and I mean, she's telling me about she had just gone to Club Med, and this is the singles Club Med, and I never heard of it. And I mean, literally, she would be like leaving the room of one guy and walking down the hall and meet somebody else and say, "Let's go for it." I mean, I was sitting there absolutely horrified. And my gay friends called me born again virgin because I had given up with men. I was like, I'm sick and tired of everybody. All they do is sleep around, snort cocaine, and spend their family's trust fund. They crash their cars. I remember one girl at Foxcroft. She got a BMW for her graduation. I think it didn't even take her a year. It's a total car, and her father just bought her a new one. I was like, aren't these parents going to sometimes like realize that like all of this stuff that their kids are doing is just to call, like, they want attention because their parents don't give a shit about them. That's why they have all of these nannies and oh my God, the nanny craze in the United States just driving me crazy. I mean, this is in Bogota that whole thing came up. There was, I mean, I was looking for a maid. We had a huge apartment, and I'm, with all sorts of social functions. I mean, this whole thing about what a socialite does, it's not what all of these social media influencers think it is. Getting up on a podium and saying how great you are and espousing your words of wisdom when you have no wisdom. Uh, I mean, no, I mean, in Bogota, somebody said to me, "Oh, um, somebody had told them to come and ask me where do I go? Who do I know? Who's who and where everything is, because I know." Yeah, because I didn't hang out at the country club. I mean, I promise you, the Latinos with what all of the Bogota high society canceling me, just like Madrid, just like Paris and London. Yeah. Guess what, people? You've been telling me for 20 years I made my bed and now I can lie in it. That I missed the boat. I keep on telling them, yeah, well, the boat you got on is a Titanic, and I'm at the dock, left with the booty. So anyway, there is this presumption of innocence. I mean, I've been doing that since the beginning. My own case, presumption of innocence. My ex-husband said, oh yeah, she's a gold digging whore who was a drug addict and juvenile delinquent. She was young and I like saved her. I mean, this was some fantasy he had. He had told me about it years ago. I was like, because he said, yeah, I would love to. I had fantasized about like having a drug addict girlfriend and saving her. I was like, you don't want to be around drug addict people. I was like, yeah, no. So it all gets into his fantasy, and also, then of course, well, she's a gold digging whore. She doesn't deserve anything. Oh, she's a drug addict. She'll just, use it on drugs. So who cares that he's taken everything, the kids, the money, the house, and throwing her out on the street. I'm like, excuse me. I mean, one of the lawyers that first she told me that I was stupid because I was shocked that my ex-husband had falsified documents and people had committed perjury in testimonies for the court. I was stupid because everybody does that. I was like, that's going to be your defense. Well, y'all are stupid. Because that's illegal. Every time I turn around, lawyers are telling me, oh, well, yeah, but we do it all the time. I'm like, but it's illegal. Yeah, but we do it all the time. So everybody has the right to presumption of innocence. And this is what the Me Too women have particularly focused on, is removing that presumption of innocence. Every woman should be believed. Excuse me, the homemakers and the stay-at-home moms who've been shafted by the family courts, who are desperate for their children, many of them alienated from their kids. I mean, some of the kids have committed suicide. I mean, it boggles the mind, the death and destruction that these courts are doing. And nobody wants to do anything about it. The lawyers are making too much money off of this. For the governments, it's oppressing citizens and feeding into the hate and the psyche of all of the abusers out there. They think it's real funny. I mean, Candace Owens is like, Erica Kirk is a psychopath. I'm like, well, Candace, so are you and everybody else out there. Don't be a hypocrite. So the issue becomes also the intense media coverage. Illustrates a fundamental challenge in modern criminal defense, protecting the presumption of innocence in the face of overwhelming public scrutiny. I mean, in the Russell Brand case, I don't think it's been too much in the news. At least I haven't really seen it. And I think that's, the Me Too movement has been laying its foundation for years and years and years. I mean, going back to 2016, this was their response to Trump's entry into office. Because, Joe Biden, they can manipulate. Trump was a different animal. The Bushes, you had Barbara Bush. Well, then Laura Bush was, yeah. I mean, Barbara Bush was a ballbuster. Laura Bush, I think, just was a simp. And this is, the frat boys that have risen to power, and through affirmative action, they're no longer just the WASP men, are all castrated. I mean, they talk about the skull and bones and these secret societies. I mean, Candace is talking about that, but her husband went to Oxford and he was part of one of those frat houses. I mean, it's not exactly the same in England. But he was part of all of that. And that's probably also why he ended up marrying a foreigner. I mean, can you imagine him with Marianne Seigart? One of her daughters. That's more age appropriate. But I'm talking about personalities. I mean, Lord, no. The women in England, the upper crust British women have become so obnoxious and entitled as the Americans that the educated men don't want to have anything to do with them. So they end up surrounding themselves with a bunch of bimbos. I mean, my sisters had told me for years that how stupid my brother's girlfriend was. And I thought they were just being bitches, because that's what they did. Um, but no, when I met her, oh Lord, I was like, no, you guys were right. Um, now the funny thing is, a girlfriend of hers um, was married to Ambassador Ann Patterson's son, the eldest son, but they got a divorce because he was having an affair with behind her back. I was like, oh, this is really good for the Pattersons. Ann Patterson in the Mommy Wars. Shall we look at your career and then your children and see what a great success story that has been? Anne Marie Slaughter, another. Shall we compare notes in the Mommy Wars? Hillary Clinton, Kerry Kennedy, Leslie Morgan Steiner. See, everybody wants this privacy, privacy, privacy for a reason. I mean, Candace Owens, I'm sure you have lovely children now. Yeah, what are they going to be when they're growing up? I mean, homeschool, homeschool. We're seeing the kids that are homeschooled are pretty dysfunctional. They're not developing the social skills they need. So the media, not only is it producing the propaganda that with Hitler, I mean, everybody, even Stalin, was like, "Oh, Hitler, he hit it on the mark with that propaganda stuff. We all should start using that." Oh, and lo and behold, after World War II, one of the people who took over the media and turned it into the propaganda machine for the Israelis in England was Robert Maxwell. And the thing is, Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in prison, yet she's got a whole slew of brothers and sisters. One of her sisters was I think it was at the World Economic Forum or something. Now, these conferences, other than wasting money, really don't bother me. I mean, this whole thing of Candace Owens going to the Russian Davos World Economic Forum conference, big damn deal. I'm sure it would have been very interesting. I would have been interested to go myself, in fact. But I don't think I would have had the same discussions. Oh no, I wouldn't be having the same discussions with all of those guys as Candace has. See, Candace is impressed with these guys. I'm not. Although one guy, he works at the Federal Reserve, and he was like, I think I said, "Oh, you work at the Federal Reserve?" He's like, "Yeah, I like defend it or something." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I started working in the I start my spiel. I started working in the financial markets in 1985. I was there for the '87 collapse. Married to a French-Spanish crash and burn banker. Okay, so yeah, I've been watching the sidelines, and this is not good. So when I started in the financial markets in 1985, we were looking at 5 or 6 interest rates on money market, 10% on T-bonds and T-bonds, and that's when the dollar actually had some value. So, I mean, with the public debt we've got, yeah, I wouldn't put much stock in those things. Um, so, and I think that's down. I forget the last time I Googled it. It's like, what is it, around 5% or something? I'm like, oh God. Um, where's all the money gone? Not only, no, not to the mutual funds. When I started, it was mutual funds. That's okay. Oh, no, 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 but it's all become hedge funds. I mean, nobody even has any problem with so many hedge funds out there anymore. They're all living in this fantasy world. We're going to collapse on top of them. So I digress. But he, at least when I finished my spiel and he knew I knew what I was talking about, even if he might disagree with me, he at least shook my hand. I'm a cashier selling donuts. But I think he was like, yeah, when the cashier selling donuts starts knowing more than the head of the Federal Reserve, the head of the World Bank, and the head of the IMF, you might want to start listening to the cashier selling donuts. Because believe me, Kristalina Georgieva, she's the head of the IMF. I keep on telling all of the IMF economists, I'm going to bring her down with a donut in the mommy wars. Because there's some economists who did an analysis of economies using a donut homemade versus store-bought. So I'm like, yeah, I just need a lawyer to start bringing this. And it's, I mean, it's gotten so big that this has to be some sort of grand jury investigation, Nuremberg trials too, whatever. Could we have it before we like have the nuclear bombs being thrown? That's what I'm trying to do. But an investigation and it's not, I mean, I've put it all together. It's not difficult. Okay. The political elected officials are owned by their donors. So stop all of that. No more of all of this donor money. You can't have that. We're going to have a pool, put the money in there, divide it up, and everybody's going to have a time limit of how long. And we're going to have transparent elections. We're going to get all of these voting machines out of there. All of these people. You're going to have an independent, all of them out. Everybody who's been involved in that from before. You can maybe even get some, moving people from a different state to go to a different state and set up or something so we get the conflict of interest out of there. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it can be done. So clean up your election processes. Get rid of all of your freaking nonprofits. I went into that in the last one that I did with this guy who's in the Amazon. I mean, you can't make a ban on nonprofits. That's, there's not a inherent problem with a nonprofit. There is a place for that, just like, I mean, churches are nonprofits, but not all of this frickin' money in there. Just like with TPUSA, I mean, when I start hearing about the private jets, and I mean, I'm like, what the hell do you people think you're doing? And they're getting away with it because nobody has been saying anything. So the CPS has explicitly reminded the public of Brand's right to a fair trial. Yeah, right. And then that's right before somebody comes out with an announcement, about what a PDF he is. Well, in this case, nobody's accusing him. I don't think there's any accusations of sex with minors. So anyway, the burden of proof remains entirely on the prosecution. Baron Coleman has tried to impress that upon people, but it's not getting great traction. So that should be the focus of everybody. And when it's challenged, saying, wait a second, due process, presumption of innocence. And that includes Erica Kirk, because her critics have sometimes gone over the line as well with her. She plays into their hand every single time, and she gives them lots and lots and lots of fuel for their criticism, um, but that shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be on the problems within the court system, that we have a government, a shadow government run by the CIA, military, that not only are they involved of trafficking of drugs to get money for their subversive activity, trafficking of children. This is why, this is the real problem that Gary Melton is having. He wants to protect them. And that's why this is going to really go south for him when we get into the Nuremberg trials too. I've been telling all of these podcasters, when I first started looking at the podcasters in the Charlie Kirk assassination, that I mean, the mainstream journalists are already facing this, the jurisprudences, and this was death penalty and treason of Lord Hee Haw, or Lord Ha, was it Lord Ha Ha, Hee Haw, I forget, Tokyo Rose, Axis Sally, these propagandists of the Third Reich. I mean, I repeat and repeat and repeat these things. I feel, I remember my mom when we were little saying, I'm just going to put it on a tape recorder and press the button. I felt like saying that with my children. And now I feel like saying the same thing. So the concept of a fair trial goes back to the Magna Carta. So see, by me going back to the Magna Carta and the Constitution and all of these things, trying to establish the legality and illegality of what's going on is not crazy. If you want to find the root of a problem or the source of a problem, you got to go to the beginning. And this is where the Habeas Corpus Act. I mean, my lord, the Spanish national Maria Jose Carrascosa, she sat in a New Jersey jail from, I forget, she was there for 8 years. So I forget when it, I knew about the case when I was in Spain. That was 2007, 2008. So this is about that time. She spent 8 years filing habeas corpus all the time. I've argued that in my case. I mean, the people who have mocked me the most was my mother and my sisters and my brother. Well, my brother just kind of doesn't say anything. He lets my sisters mock me. Well, my older sister, she died. She had cancer, but as I told my brother, she killed herself. Not only was it all of the smoking, but also all of the smoking was and I mean really a lot of smoking was caused by her continual, just like my mom and just like my ex-husband, of continually working people, like conniving, trying to okay, how am I gonna get this? How am I gonna, work this person, work that person to get what I want? My ex-husband always said to me, don't you see that person's working? You don't you see that person working? I'm like, no, they're not. Not any more than you. I'm doing something because I want to do it. I'm more than happy. I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have the conflict of interest of having to do something because I needed to put the food on the table or pay the rent. I mean, my favorite explanation to people of saying how your spouses are handlers, default handlers, if you will. For example, when we were in Bogota, My ex, he works for a Spanish bank. We're within the Spanish community, and my kids are at the French school, and we know a lot of people at the French embassy. So it's much more the French and the Spanish expat community in Bogota, and then Bogota high society. We didn't really mingle with the Americans. My husband, he never liked being around English speakers. I think it was like subconscious. And I was like, well, if you do it a little while, like I do it with Spanish and French, then, and I mean, hell, you know, a currency trader, a banker, I mean, okay, it's a limited vocabulary of what you're speaking, but you are speaking in English. But I just think he couldn't be in control. So, but anyway, so I have no conflict of it. I can say and do anything I want amongst the Americans to a certain extent because my husband's not working for an American corporation or the American government, and it would look bad. It would be bad for his career. For example, when there was 1999 Plan Colombia, I stood up at the American embassy and I said, well, all well and good, get rid of your drug production, but what about the consumption? Well, now, if he had been within the American embassy or a corporation there, yeah, that wouldn't have been very good for him. I was like, I'm a free agent here. I can give you all the middle finger anytime I freaking want. Now, I had to be a little more diplomatic. I mean, okay, I could get away with some things with the French and the Spaniards because I'm an American. And it would, she's just a very, very opinionated American. And so, that would, as I say, it was particularly when it came to the chador in schools or in the French schools. That was one of my pet peeves. And I would try not have too much. I was like, wait a second, you guys, you can wear a cross in the French schools and they're not going to send you home, but you can't wear a chador. I'm sorry, that's hypocritical. And then when I found out, when Maguilon Orleans said it wanted to find out if my kids, I wanted to put my kids in religion school, and I asked, what religions are they going to study? Somebody laughed, said, it's a catechism class. I said, no way, no way am I going to brainwash my kids with that shit. But then I found out they did it at the French school in Bogota. And I said, excuse me, you all have been going on about the chador and everything like that. You're giving catechism classes in the French school? That's French property. Oh, yeah, but it's in a foreign country. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to ever hear again about the chador again. Yeah, that was a discussion, also a heated discussion with the French. Oh, another one you never want to get into is cava versus champagne and butter for cooking versus olive oil with the Spaniards. Yeah, that's their football. Yeah, that's sacred as well. Okay, so yeah, the thing is with Russell Brand, his lawyer, one of his lawyers, Andrew Bretler, that lawyer was Prince Andrew's lawyer as well. Now, I contacted Andrew Bretler when the case came up against Prince Andrew because I said, this is an attack by the Me Too witches, and expose them for what they are, expose their agenda. All they're trying to do, this is efforts to destroy the House of Windsor now that their ally, Elizabeth II, is close to the end. So they want to start destroying the House of Windsor. What do you think Meghan Markle is all about? I don't know if that's a psyop or if it's just coincidence, but it's a very convenient coincidence. And Meghan Markle, there is definitely proof. Her time in Canada, I mean, what she did to her first husband is disgusting. And just then and there, you're like, this is a scumbag little social climbing witch. And Elizabeth II is not this great queen that everybody says. I mean, my lord, why was Meghan Markle not investigated more? And how is it that nobody noticed? This is another thing. I'm like, I'm sorry. That's another thing that the socialites and trad wives do. Radar. I mean, I'd tell my husband, I'm like, yeah, I don't trust her for a second. I don't. That's a gold digger. That's a viperous witch. I mean, the men are bad enough, but the women are the ones you really got to wake up, watch out for, because the men are the ones who are manipulated by the women. I'm sure much of Gary Melton, this is not, some guy up in DOD giving him instructions. I think that's all coming from his wife. This is like he's like, oh, that I'm being bought, and, I'm being no, the manipulation. I'm pretty sure it's his wife. The bimbo idiots he's been bringing on there. I think it's his wife. I may be wrong, but this is another thing. Oh, here with this article. So, okay, we'll finish. Andrew Brettler ignored me. This comes up in the Tyler Robinson trial. People were telling Baron Coleman to contact Tyler Robinson's lawyer and say, wait a second, we got a whole bunch of, we've been doing all of this ballistic research into the case. These are things that the government, it actually should not be in the hands of the FBI, but of the local police of Utah. And that the feds are involved is already what's going on here. Any competent lawyer, I mean, of course, you can't come into court as a lawyer and say, look, we know the feds involved, and come in with all of this, well, it's the FBI behind that. And they don't have to do that. It comes into presumption of innocence again. The burden of proof is on the prosecution. Unfortunately, that's not how the courts are working. The burden of proof is on the defendant these days. And everybody will come on, and Baron Coleman can give all sorts of podcasts on how presumption of innocence and burden of proof. But that's not going to change the reality of what's going on in the courts until the legal community and political community start waking up and doing something about it. So, I contact Andrew Brettler with information. In the Tyler Robinson case, it was John Bray. Because thank him very much for doing that. That means that Tyler Robinson's lawyers have this information. They can't say, we didn't know, we weren't watching podcasters. See, this Baron Coleman, I think he realized that, and his loyalty was to the legal profession. This is a very, very big problem that we're having. Litigants come and go, whereas all of these lawyers and judges, they're the bread and butter of each other. And they should be, lawyers and judges, they're legally their duty is to uphold the law within the courts, but that's not what's happening in practice. So John Bray did contact Tyler Robinson's lawyers, whether that's going to have some influence or not, because from what I can tell from the court documents and what the filings in court, that's kind of been, well, these are conspiracy theories. So we'll see. I mean, basically it comes down to, in the trial, are is the defendant going to be able to prove that this is not the gun? And that we don't, I don't know what the evidence is there and how the lawyers are going to argue it, but it doesn't look too good at this point. Because the defense has not been aggressive. I don't know why, with all of the, Megyn Kelly saying Tyler Robinson did it, and he, electric chair. See, the defense should have been making public statements all of this time. I don't know why one of these lawyers, they know how to use the press, wasn't taken on in this case. I really don't know. But all they have to go is every single time, all the time, every day, every time they have an opportunity, we have to remain, we can't talk about issues or whatever, but there is the presumption of innocence, and it is on the prosecution to prove the case. It's not up to us to prove innocence. And focus, get people understanding that this is a case about presumption of innocence, just like with Russell Brand. He has the opportunity, my lord. He has, I don't know how many followers. Let's see how many followers he has. Candace Owens has 6 million followers. Does Russell Brand? He has, okay, following 18 million by approximately 6.8 million on YouTube. Candace is now at 6 million on YouTube as well. If they were just focusing on that, I mean, okay, some of the stuff that Candace has been bringing out, but is interesting. But I mean, she's, how shall I say, the jury's still out on exactly what Candace's objective and agenda is here. But it's advancing her career instead of trying to address the problems or expose the problems in the court and the necessity for reform, which needs some political support. I keep on going up to Capitol Hill. You can go on my activism website, Taking Back America for the People, and the American Abroad to Act. How I'm explaining to the snot-nosed brat up on Capitol Hill the problems. I first explained to her, are you familiar with the obligation to protect? That's what I'm coming, and I'm reclaiming the rights of American citizens living abroad from their consulates under the sovereign obligation to protect. See, people don't even understand that not only at the national levels, but at the international levels, all of these different people, Amal Clooney included, I'm going to look at her, are just so, it's either stupidity, greed, arrogance, chutzpah, whatever, that all of these celebrities with are completely undermining rule of law and the rights of people within Western societies, and it's got to stop. And this is, I mean, I'm convinced this is why they wanted to take down Prince Andrew. It destabilizes the House of Windsor, which is already in a precarious situation. I want them to take the lead in kicking butt in all of the monarchs and say, get down from your little ivory towers and challenge the industrialists, fight for your subjects, reestablish rule of law in your countries, reaffirm sovereignty rights. Tell your asshole politicians that this is not going to happen anymore. That's what a monarch is supposed to do. Not this pomp and ceremony and bullshit that they've been doing. That's why the Tsar and Tsarina of Russia were assassinated. That's why Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, or excuse me, Louis XVI, lost the crown. I mean, it started with the opulence of Louis XVI. I mean, when are people going to wake up and smell the coffee and realize this is not a sustainable paradigm? So, I mean, see, Russell Brand, my God, I don't even listen to him anymore. I was first amused. I mean, I guess that happens with all of them. It's first kind of amusing, and I was like, who is this Jesus Christ? I had no idea who Russell Brand was before. Yeah, all this, yeah, all of the actors and actresses and all of that crap. I mean, I like a good movie as much as the next person, but I've never been into celebrity following or worshiping. In fact, when we lived in Brussels, we would often go to this, it was a cultural house, Spanish cuisine in Brussels. Very, very good food. And we go with some other Spanish families, and they would always, like the Spaniards, the women, just like in the Arab countries, use Spaniards. And this is Southern Europe. The men on one side and the women on the other side. And I mean, these women would come with their Ola magazines. And I was just like, excuse me, you do not put me, you do not, when everybody starts sitting down, I'm not going to go in the dark, dark territory at the end of the table with these women surrounded by Ola revistas. I'm not going to make it through the 2 hours we're sitting here for lunch. I mean, these bimbos, all of the bimbos, whether they be the European ones or the Americans, South America or America, North America, this has got to stop. The feminist movement was supposed to liberate women and produce, you know, how shall I say it? Women who didn't identify themselves exclusively by their husband because their husband were the breadwinner. But see, the problem never was that women identified themselves because of their husband, you know, and their social status surrounding him and his job. It's because they didn't have an inner self. They were all Stepford for Wives, the Valley of the Doll. Part of that comes from most of, like, American women. We'll just take that case study. American women of the 1950s. All of a sudden, post-World War, we got a boom. And this came from Europe having self-destructed and in need of being reconstructed, and so that gives us lots and lots of jobs. Well, contracts with the Americans to help them reconstruct, and this is why the World Bank was created. But so you had all of a sudden all of these women whose mothers and grandmothers had lived on farms and toiled from dawn to dusk, and none of them had been trained or prepared to become princesses, socialites, queens, whatever you want to call them, but women of leisure and women who were supposed to impart the customs and the culture to one generation after another. So that's all been lost. I mean, we're completely, the kids, they don't have any moral compass. They don't, the moms are either deadbeat moms, deadbeat dads, or off having it all with their careers and throwing money at their kids. And then, oh, and then we bring in homeschooling so we all feel better. Oh, God. So anyway, again, there's another case that's out there is the case against Candace Owens and Mitch Snow by Brian Harple. Now, the thing is, Candace has never stepped over the line. She brought on Mitch Snow. Mitch Snow was like, yeah, I saw this person at this place. Can any, you can say, well, maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was just somebody that looked like her. Or Mitch Snow is lying. I mean, what would his motivation be of lying? You know, I, that really doesn't hold water when you look at it. There's really no upside for him in making up this story. So that's, and why, if Erica Kirk was there, why would she lie about it? All she had to do was say, well, yeah, I was there picking up whatever. They've been out there, her mother and she have had a close relationship with this Fort Huachuca for a long time. Her mother's been involved in the military all the time. I mean, the woman is just a very, very bad liar. And I mean, the thing is everybody's like, but she keeps on contradicting herself, and you catch her in all of these lies. I'm like, yeah, because the thing is with somebody like Erica, she's been trained in Machiavellian games by her mother since she was young. So, and that's, but the problem is she's not intelligent enough to, well, also, first, she hasn't been taught, and this in Debutante Guides to Life, Cornelia gets into. It's kind of like the drill sergeant, my favorite. There was one guy who said, one of the most important things that I learned in the military was from this drill sergeant who came barking in my face like the first day, and he said, until you got something important to say, you shut up. But if you got something important to say, like, uh, Captain Sergeant, we got some guns behind us pointed at them, like that might constitute important to say type of thing. And this was like a 5-star general or something. And he said that was the most important lesson I learned. So yeah, it is the same boot camp socialites go through as Army. We just go through it from birth. And believe me, our mothers, the drill sergeants, got nothing on them. So anyway, she just says anything that comes out of her, anything off the top of her head. She doesn't think and she doesn't remember what she says. And believe me, take your pick. My mom, my sisters, my ex-husband, you know, I'd be like, wait a second, you're contradicting yourself. And if you confront them, that gets them really, really angry. Now, if you scream at them, that makes them happy because it just gets into them. You insult them, you scream at them, then that plays into the whole psyop. But yeah, in Machiavellian games, I mean, yeah, everybody lies. Just the thing is if you're gonna lie, you better remember it. And this is what I tell people. I'm like, you know what? Like my mom, she would make up lies when it was unnecessary. I'd be like, of course she can't keep track of everything because she's constantly coming up with these different stories. And people are like, what's going on here? Because nothing makes sense. She constantly, yeah, well, see, this is where growing up with somebody, I'm like, oh, but if you really listen, if you really, really listen to these people, they'll slip. They'll constantly make mistakes and indicate what's going on in their heads. And they're gossiping behind closed doors. But the issue is most of these psychopaths, pathological liars will self-destruct because, you know, they expose their hand on by constantly contradicting themselves. So that's where Erica Kirk, you know, is her downfall. She's not a smart liar. You know, if you're going to lie a lot, you better do it well. If you're going to do a job, do it well. So anyway, some of the people, I went into the last video about this Vivi Sabah in Tucson, Arizona. She was an anthropologist. She was a good friend of my mother's. But you know, one of these fair weather friend type of deals. I love it. This is a deed. Now, I asked my sister, this is her husband, I was like, I don't know, he gives me the creeps when we were young girls. And they were like, yeah, me too. So I don't know. What I do know is Dr. and Mrs. Sabah have not made a positive contribution to Tucson society in their, what is it now? They would have moved there in the 70s. And I mean, Mrs. Sabah, her house is $2.5 million. The way things are going now, I mean, lots and lots and lots and lots of foreigners are looking at seizure of their assets and expulsion from the country. And with everything, all of the corruption that has been going on, and everybody in Tucson and Phoenix, the McCains are involved in the cover-up. I mean, the McCain Institute, I sent Sandy McCain, an email after the McCain Institute was started. I was like, I don't know if you know about Mike Helen, my mother, and what's been going on all of these years. Why have I not gotten any support from John McCain in trying to bring the problems to Congress? The senator that I used to work for, Bennett Johnston, same issue. All of these people are going to have to explain, what have you been doing? Cashing in. Cashing in. Vivi has proved to be a quiet, strong, and compassionate leader, dealing with others fairly and with good humor. She believes that her greatest strength is her deep loyalty to family and friends, to whom she is unfailingly caring and loving. Vivi cherishes art, music, and theater, and remains an avid reader of books. Vivi believes in quiet philanthropy, particularly giving of herself as a volunteer. Oh yeah, this is what with global expats, I'm like, no more volunteers. All of these nonprofits and volunteers and all that stuff, is backstabbing witches. So with the nonprofits, you're either paying them these exorbitant salaries that have no justification, or they're backstabbing witches. So, her father was a lawyer, and she's an anthropologist. I mean, I'm sick and tired. My parents, they had 3,000 books at the end. I mean, my mother didn't understand a damn thing. She would go to museums and spend hours and hours and hours. It was all this, like appearances of being these great educated people. I mean, my father was, but she was just so damn jealous. So, amongst the Middle Easterns, there's that are responsible for all of this. We've got Amal Clooney, the Naders, Ralph Nader, Laura Nader. These are the Lebanese. She's the author of The Life of Law. Well, that's one of the books that I read years ago. And I'm like, yeah. See, Laura Nader, she explained how the mediation process is destroying our courts. I've been doing a deep dive on all of this shit, but I can't get any support from politicians, from all my family and friends, or from the legal community, and certainly not academia. All they care about is money and jobs. So let's take a listen to, there we go.
The Mope, Pistol Pete, and many, many more. And if you haven't said hi in the chat, make sure you do so. Make sure you like, subscribe.
Murder case, not a whole lot of murder.
If you will, just tell everybody a little bit about who you are. And I'd also like to hear how you got into this and outside of like just doing your normal attorney stuff.
Yeah. First of all, thanks, Gary, so much for having us on here. I came across your stuff right after Charlie Kirk. I saw your analysis, and it's always good to have some details from people who've got experience in the actual specifics of what's going on. So right now we do a show called Watching the Watchers Live. I am a criminal defense lawyer, and I didn't start on YouTube in this capacity until COVID. I actually started a law firm in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we represented, hundreds, thousands of cases of people charged with crimes. And most of the crimes were, kind of the ordinary run-of-the-mill stuff, things like DUI, domestic violence, a lot of felony drug crimes, some gang-related stuff. Only every now and then did we get a murder case, not a whole lot of murders or homicides in Arizona. But we practiced for years. I practiced for about 10 years there. And then when COVID hit, I was very upset about what was happening. And I was essentially covering all of the lockdown orders. So you may remember, but governors were coming down and they were issuing these big proclamations using state and national security to lock everybody in their homes. And I was very upset about that because we had clients who were in jail. We had clients who were in custody. And most of our clients I would like to explain as being, good people who kind of got themselves in a bad situation, people who were not evil or who were out there trying to commit crimes. There were some of those people, but by and large, good people who just got, kind of caught up in a bad way at some point in their life. And I've had, experiences like that myself when I've been on the ups and on the downs. And so we were helping people through these things. And when COVID locked down, I saw this reaction from a lot of people, even in the defense side, where I think that we fight for people's civil rights and, due process of law and the presumption of innocence and the right to counsel and all of these various important constitutional principles. We saw that many defense attorneys were just kind of abandoning ship, and they were saying lockdowns are okay. Everybody close your business down. I got calls from people who were running hair salons, who were running, CrossFit gyms that I went to, who were all getting the police show up at their door and say, why are you running a gym class? Why are you cutting people's hair? Scottsdale PD showing up and basically eliminating their businesses, right? These were a lot of people who didn't have a lot of resources to weather a multi-year, lockdown type of a storm. So we started speaking out about it on YouTube. I really had no idea what else to do. I started to see our business essentially evaporate. If people are not going out to the bars and the clubs and getting in trouble, getting into assaults and all these things, our business goes away. And, it's kind of better if obviously there's less of those crimes happening, but we also provide, I think, a very valuable and important service in holding the government accountable when we are representing our defendants. And so I got on the internet and I just started making videos. I was already making videos about Arizona law, very specific, how to beat a DUI, a second charge DUI in this particular court, and giving people
how to beat a DUI in this court or that court. I mean, the whole thing of how to beat a DUI, I mean, that gets into my case in Spain. Again, why am I not getting any support from the lawyers on this? This is not about beating a DUI if you were really drunk and putting somebody's life in danger. I mean, the whole DUI, my case, what happened was some neighbors were having a birthday party for, well, his friend, for the husband. So I had totally forgotten about it. And this is why also I'm like proof that my ex was setting it up. I had totally forgotten about it. I know it was right around Easter because I went home. My son had gone out to dinner with a friend of his. And my younger son, he was over at a friend spending the night. And so I was at home fixing. The next day we were having Easter egg hunt at the house, and I always did a huge lunch for that, so I was preparing that. I was trying to keep everything as normal as possible for my children. And my husband was just trying to destroy everything. I mean, no sympathy for me at any point. I'm I didn't fall apart. I mean, I think if I had fallen apart and cried and carried on, maybe people would have acted differently. But anyway, so she calls me up. She said, did you remember? I'm like, oh gosh, I totally forgot. Okay, I'll come over, wish him happy birthday, stay for a little while. So I go and I had probably 2 glasses of wine and stay for a while. I mean, you get there. This is Spain. I got there at like 11 o'clock at night. I mean, it doesn't start until 10 o'clock. I definitely was not the last to be leaving. So I leave, I don't know, around 1:30 or so. And right as I'm leaving, I mean, I even clocked it. I think it's not even a 5-minute drive from their house to my house. It was a enclosed in conjunto, 5-minute drive at 20 kilometers an hour, because that's what I would go, 5 minutes. And so, I mean, this gets into, are you all with the DUI in order to oppress people, or is it to make your streets safe? Because there were kids all the time. There was a university nearby, and on that road, like one of these nacional, or not even nacional, whatever, one of these roads that would go there, and you would constantly, every Monday, you would see a car that had flipped over on the side of the road, and it was drunk kids. And so that was what, usually all of us people in the neighborhood, they go to people's house for dinner and go back and forth, and nobody's, there's no danger there. People aren't speeding and they're not drunk. Of course, most of them are over the limit. But the cops don't bother anybody because they're not creating a problem out on the roads. So anyway, I arrive at the house. I see in my rearview mirror as I'm pulling out my car, my husband goes past in his car, and I don't think too much of it. I should have. And then not go home, and then they would have been sitting there, or walked, and then they would have been screwed. So I arrive at the house, and I see 2 cop cars with 4 cops in front of my house with my ex-husband right there with his cars. I'm like, okay, now his his cousin works on the local police force. I'm like, well, this is just evidence again that he has the police force in his pocket. Because it is impossible when I'm calling them, the police saying, my husband's going to kill me, my husband's going to kill me. It's taken them at least 15 minutes to get there. And he probably would have done the deed if he had gotten to me, if I hadn't locked myself up. And it takes him that long. Yet you're going to tell me that my husband calls and says, oh, my wife is leaving the party and she's driving drunk, and they're going to come 2 cop cars to the front of my house? Like, again, you know, this just defies any kind of probability of being organic. I mean, 2 cop cars. And I'd like to know how many times these cops have come and done that in that neighborhood. Never. And so I did, within the recorriendo domestic remedies, within the whole process, I did bring that up. And there had been some Supreme Court cases in Spain about this issue, about the DUI, but all of them, and they had all been found in favor of the defendant, who had been drunk, all men, all young men, I think, and were drunk and had serious accidents. Yet it was found, the law was found unconstitutional. So, you know, I mean, if I had had some real lawyers who wanted to apply the Spanish Constitution, which is what I've been trying to do in my case, this would have been easy breezy. But see, no, the lawyers are like him. This is all figure out how to work the system in your favor, but don't ask or question whether this system is illegal. It's just how to work the system.
People, the run of the mill on how the government needs to prove their case and, you know, unpack the entire process, the elements of the crimes and so on. And then we started watching the watchers, and I started literally going through the proclamations from the governors and comparing that versus the Constitution and showing why I thought that the lockdown orders were completely illegitimate. And that turned into a whole show that we do now called Watching the Watchers. Right after, of course, we had the lockdowns, we had the George Floyd situation with Derek Chauvin. And it was a weird experience for me as a defense lawyer because, you know, I'm kind of an adversarial by nature in a way. I'd like to take the hard end of an argument and stand up against like a David versus Goliath situation. I like to kind of be the David fighting against this Goliath. And pre-George Floyd, we saw that largely the country was very...
He was really David versus Goliath. I mean, how is it that I'm not finding any men willing to help me? Now, I can understand the women, all of the women lawyers. No, they're feminists. They're all having it all feminists and stay-at-home moms are the enemy. They're all gold-digging whores and broodmares, and they just should be exterminated when they're no longer of child-producing years. I mean, this came out in the Epstein file. That's kind of the Orwellian utopia that people like Ivanka and her husband are preparing for. Yeah, the old poor people, you just exterminate them. When they're no longer useful, you just exterminate them. See how we're headed towards the concentration camps and ovens, extermination plans? That's in the works. And these two guys are on that side. While using all of this rhetoric, proclaiming that they're David fighting Goliath. I mean, Gary, this entire time, all he spends his time on is trashing his adversaries instead of presenting hardcore evidence that proves his point. And that's coming from his wife again.
Oriented towards prosecutors and towards police. Like they always did everything right. There was nothing wrong that happened. Cops are all good. Prosecutors are all legitimate. There's no problems with crime labs and so on and so forth. And after George Floyd, it was like a switch flip throughout the entire country. And then all of a sudden, every single cop was bad. Every single prosecutor was bad. And they were essentially being convicted before even evidence had been heard. The whole country flipped. And it was a wild experience to live through that as a defense lawyer. But we covered that case, and we were then putting on our criminal.
Yeah, the entire country flipped because it's all been about favoritism for this group or that group. Affirmative action. Affirmative action is illegal. I think that's even been decided by the Supreme Court. It's still going on, as are its residual effects. I mean, if it wasn't, I'd have lawyers knocking at my door. Let's go after Nuchi Courier. She was the president of the Women's Democratic National Club here in DC. I got a case on her and both Women's Democratic Club here in DC and the Republican Women's Club in New York City. Adele Malpass, that's David Malpass's wife. I've been busy setting up cases. And I know everybody thinks they can play the diplomatic immunity card and or statute of limitations. Neither one is going to fly. I got him under RICO and I got him under the Enemy Alien Act. And we can go on from there. But I've concentrated to try and make it simple for all of these ESQs with their head up their asses.
Criminal defense attorney hat for Derek Chauvin, a police officer, which was...
I've never found a lawyer who has been able to say, no, you're wrong on this, you're wrong on that, you're wrong on the other. They just say, oh, you should have become a lawyer. And then turn around and go away. Grumbling because it's like, shit, she didn't even go to law school and she understands all this shit. I get the same thing from The Economist. I'm like, I don't need a PhD. Nobody needs a PhD. I mean, this idea that giving you a PhD or an ESQ like turns you into a genius is crazy. Absolutely crazy. I mean, Charlie Kirk, you saw Charlie Kirk, don't go to school. It's all a scam. Everybody's telling you that. I mean, it's ludicrous. All of these kids that are being churned out by the universities and they don't understand a thing about what they supposedly have been studying. It's incredible. Incredible.
You know, another kind of interesting experience to be defending the police, but we analyzed that in detail. We went through all of the court documents. We looked at, you know, the autopsy reports, the blood results of what happened. We were covering the trial at length and pointing out what was in George Floyd's blood and how he was complaining about not being able to breathe before even he was on the ground in the back of the squad car. He was complaining, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. There were, you know, pictures and evidence that he had maybe ingested some fentanyl or something right in the moment before his arrest. And so we covered that whole case. And after that, we had Kyle Rittenhouse. We saw that, you know, shooting happened. And once again, we saw, you know, a very politicized case that came out, and the defendant was, in my opinion, being abused, just like Derek Chauvin was, you know, being convicted in the court of public opinion, not in the court of law. Derek Chauvin obviously went to prison. He's going to be there for a long time. A lot of his appeals have been rejected, but fortunately, Kyle Rittenhouse didn't have that same fate. And so the show just kind of evolved organically, just calling these things out. And simultaneously, I was practicing law. We, a very, nice, reputable law firm in Scottsdale, Arizona. In 2023, I had a
Scottsdale, Arizona, where we've got huge problems of child trafficking, of the military industrial complex that has consolidated its power bases. Definitely under the McCains, but before the McCains, this goes back to post World War II. You see a lot, like the Farnsworth family, they had quite a few military people. So if you start going into all of the different families of Arizona, this has been going on for a long time. And all of them need to be held to account. I mean, the McCains particularly are egregious at present with Arizona. I mean, they've been at the lead. I don't know. I mean, definitely since I came back in 2008 and started all of this, but definitely before that.
Conversation with my business partner and just said, hey, man,
I mean, all of the states are in a mess. My states are Arizona, Louisiana. I was born in New Orleans, but then I also have Florida several times. Miami is the capital of South America. So that gets into everything with the Latinos, south of the border and up here. And the ones in Europe. Then there's my web designers, Arnima Web Design, that's in Tampa, Florida. My cousins live in Jacksonville. That's where my father was born and raised. So I've got standing and cause kind of throughout Florida. And that, I mean, this is an opportunity and a minefield for if somebody wanted to, kind of do the what the Me Too did, but to restore rule of law. Come on. I've set it up. All of these cases, they're all over the place. I know this is going to make a lot of waves and make a lot of people unhappy, but it's going to avoid a civil war.
What do we want to do with the future of this law firm? I've got this opportunity. You've got these other opportunities. And so in 2023, right before the midterms, or before the 2024 election, I exited the firm. He took the reins of it. And then I started watching the Watchers full time. And that, again, was another wild.
That's like Baron Coleman. I mean, I'm like, wait a second, Baron Coleman. And he defended some of the January 6th people. That I agree. Those people were set up. They were set up by the FBI. They were set up by the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi was involved in that. Again, another thing that needs to be investigated. People are sick and tired of it. All this bullshit. Now, did Trump really, the Butler shooting, what happened there? Was that a psyop?
Era of American law, because we had all of the Trump prosecutions. So, 4 of those, the one in New York, the one in Georgia, the one in Florida, and then of course the J6 case, all in the aftermath of the 2024 election. So we ended up covering, that was leading up to the 2024 election. So we went full time in on that to kind of support Trump and defended him in the court of public opinion, covering all of those cases in a way that the media was just not covering, and explaining exactly why he was innocent and why this was, like the others, a complete railroad. And so that's how the show emerged. Watching the Watchers live is now something that we do. We continue to do the work. We look at criminal defense cases. We look at political cases. We cover a lot of the Supreme Court stuff, Judiciary Committee hearings, and we try to show the documents. We try to relate the cases back to what you can see on the screen and what evidence is being presented in the court of law, so that we can have accurate information, so that it's not just all kind of speculation and rumor and people are coming to their own conclusions that aren't based in fact. So this
is what Baron Coleman has been doing. Candace Owens has been doing. Trigger Smart is another. I mean, John Bray has been doing a lot of the ballistic stuff on that. I mean, he really did a lot of he like produces like armored vests or something like that for the military. So he understands a lot of these different there's some acoustical issues there. So it gets all very, very technical with him, but he has done a deep dive. These are not people who have just come up with bullshit. I mean, okay, you had the handgun, but that was disregarded pretty quickly. I mean, anytime you have an investigation into anything, I don't care what it is. One of the lessons that I learned in this class, business environment, was no idea is crazy. That was also international marketing 101. There's no such thing as a crazy idea. That's what brainstorming is about. Anytime, okay, like, give me the craziest idea you have about this certain issue. That doesn't mean you're going to take it and run with it. As Andrew Bustamante always said, everything is possible. It's just, what is the probability of this happening, given the evidence? But if you don't look at the evidence, how can you examine what the probability of something is going to be? My Lord, I even posted a Hillsdale class on Euclidean logic, because nobody seems to be understanding this basic stuff. If then, I mean, this gets back to Euclid and the if then logic. That's what these guys are taking this and throwing it out of the universe. I don't even think they've ever heard of Euclid. I mean, this is demonic. See, this is how the demon, it was, forked tongue. I don't know all of the scriptures, but the demon's tool, Satan's tool, is a lie, and the ability to lie.
Been doing that ever since, and we're having a great time. We're having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of great people, and I think, hopefully doing some good work out there and having some good conversations and a lot of fun.
They're having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of great people, being popular. See, that's what it's all about for these podcasters. This is a waste of money and resources. And also, I'm going to have to start going through all of his different things, because it seems to me, he's this is really party politicking. John Bolton is guilty. So yeah, I'm going to I'll start listening to him. And maybe I'll agree with some of the stuff he has to say. But for me, a red flag right away, going on to Paramount Tactical with Gary Melton, right away I'm like, okay, this person is either been bought off, been drinking and passing out Kool-Aid, part of the system, or a complete idiot. I mean, it's funny because we haven't heard from Tamara for a while. I'm gonna have to look at what she's doing lately. Oh God, that girl. What? How did Dee got a podcast? What did he say? He said something like she was challenged or something, but I was like, you're being too kind.
No, I love what you're doing, man. And again, you're bringing real common sense and honesty to a very confusing time. Because just like you talked about, I am extremely skeptical of the government. And I think it is our job as citizens to hold them accountable, to point out when they're...
I mean, he always starts out like this. I'm very skeptical. I don't trust the government. I mean, it's like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I mean, that's like having Jackie Onassis get up on the podium and say, guess what? I'm really just a hippie.
Line to point out when they're abusing the justice system and all the powers that we give them. But what I've also seen, just like you said, is kind of flipped. Now, what we have are a lot of people, I think, that are capitalizing and exploiting the distrust that American people have for the government. And I think a little bit ironically against an administration that government was weaponized against them. You know, for the average person out there, like, how do they determine? Because I see a lot of default thinking. It's right now, it's like, if the government said it, it's not true. Whereas before it was kind of like, well, if a prosecutor and the police said it and the government said it or intelligence agency said it, it has to be true. Now we've kind of went the opposite direction. And I think there's a lot of people.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Gary, you've been asleep at the wheel for a long time. Because for us socialites, social media influencers, who've been in the game since the 70s and the 80s and even the 60s. Yeah. I mean, we figured out in our teens there was something wrong with these people. Many of them were within our family. But what's the funny thing is, the girls that were some of the most like rebellious have become some of the most conformist and been at the lead of that. It's incredible. It's incredible. So, Gary, let me just get you up to speed, because the only reason that you think that everybody trusted the government, I mean, you're like living in like, well, not even in 1930 or 40 did everybody believe that. I mean, that's what Jesse James was about. That was Bonnie and Clyde. That's why everybody loved Jesse James and Bonnie and Clyde. So see, they were heroes, even though they were bank robbers and murderers. Somebody willing to stand up to the banks, somebody willing to stand up to the railroads. So yeah, Gary, like, go back to sleep.
Exploiting that, quite frankly, grifting off of that distrust.
Yeah.
God, grifting off of that distrust. I mean, Gary is like one of the biggest grifters. You know, look at all the guns behind him. I mean, the man went into the military, and after they get out, he becomes one of these contract guys who is involved in all sorts of shit with the Sasha Riley case. His adopted father was military and a pilot. He went into, you know, the private plane. All of these private planes all over the place. I mean, I've always told people, look, the only difference between a rich person and a poor person is the poor person has a car he can't afford. The rich person has a yacht or an airplane they can't afford. I mean, you know, everybody I've known in my entire life, I don't care how rich they are, how poor they are, they don't know how to manage their money. I mean, that was another thing that all of the little ladies in my neighborhood in Madrid were pissed off about. I was bitching because we had only 80% to put down on our house. Now, granted, you're going to go, what? 80%? I mean, that's like almost paying full. Almost nobody pays outright for a house. Well, the thing is, and this is something that I have time and time again in discussion amongst the expats, was, I mean, I would always tell them, how can you not save money? Your housing is paid for. The education for your children are paid for. It exclusive international schools, very expensive. You've got, vacations, like most times you'll get one trip back to your home country for the family. I mean, this is the corporate jobs. So how is it? I mean, how do you not save money? You put away money because if you were living in your home country, you'd be building equity in your home. That's not the case when you're abroad, when you're renting. So you save up. And nobody knew how to save. And I was pissed, but I still haven't gotten a hold of, everything in my divorce is so illegal. It's not even funny. I can make the whole thing null and void and, whatever. I don't even care how we go down that road, but it's going to clean up this shit. But this whole thing that I don't have access to my financial records while I was married. Yeah, no, that's not going to fly. So anyway, I mean, it just, I get off the track, but, I just, it's incredible how Gary particularly, but he's not the only one. I mean, he's typical. He says stuff with a straight face and then does the exact opposite. I mean, it really is a form of schizophrenia.
Yeah, I think that it's very polarized. On one side, it's the government is always wrong, they're always lying, it's all Fed slop or whatever's coming out of their mouth.
Well, give me a case where it's not true, because I've been back for 18 years up on Capitol Hill. Well, you all have been having a wonderful time with your law degrees and law firms and podcasts and military careers where you're going to do subversive activity in other countries. See, the thing is the military, they're not, I mean, most of them don't even understand anything about the U.S. Constitution or anything, rule of law. These are guys with guns. They like to shoot and kill. That's what they do for a living. There's no, sense of that they're fighting for. I mean, they learned the rhetoric, but they're certainly not fighting for rule of law, the U.S. Constitution, the values and principles of our founding father. No, they're fighting to uphold and defend the values, morals, and laws of the British Empire that the Americans revolted against. And then to add insult to injury, he sits there and he tells you he's fighting for everybody's rights and for the Constitution. I mean, it's disgusting. It's trashing. I mean, they all talk about stolen valor. Stolen valor. Excuse me. All of these military guys, since at least World War I, with the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Iraqi wars, none of that was about democracy or liberating people. They've been out there producing, puppet dictatorships all over the world and creating havoc.
Mouth is completely distrustworthy. On the other end, it's trust them for everything, basically give them the benefit of the doubt. And, the default is let's wait and see and kind of trust their reporting and everything that's coming out in their documents. And I find myself somewhere in the middle. I think that, oftentimes people, and I feel like I get pulled to either spectrum. Sure. And there's these emotional pitches and these emotional claims. And those are very persuasive. We're human beings. We get hit with these words and phrases that just kind of trigger us at a subconscious level.
Yeah,
and
Kerry uses that all the time.
Pulls us to one direction and to the other direction. And so we try to just calm it down a little bit and just say, what is logic and reason here present to us? Because I agree with you. The government, I have a lot of questions about a lot of things. Like they still, many still say that COVID came from a wet lab and stuff like that. And you say, well, that's not, that just doesn't ring true when you start to reason how the reaction was and how all of the disagreement. And you can pick apart each individual case, one at a time. But whenever I feel like I'm being drawn to one side or people are using language that is more provocative than factual, to me, it feels like it's just an attempt to appeal to emotion, right? There's a fallacy in argument that is an appeal to emotion. And when I start to see those just one after another, and it starts to be, filling in the gaps, then it's an indicator to me, even if I'm feeling drawn to that, or even if it appeals to my default opinions that I don't trust certain things, I still have to just put a pause in that, almost count to 10 and then revert back to what I like to go off of is the documents and the evidence that is being presented. Then you can question the evidence, you can question the documents, but at least you have a point that you can key off on. You can look at what the FBI said, look at what the DOJ said, look at what the defense says, because there's a strong defense in many of these cases too. And they're going to make their arguments at some point, but in many cases, those arguments have just not been made yet. And so a lot of it, I think, is also just premature, where people are filling in the gaps because they can't see anything. And the truth of the matter is they might see answers to all of their questions and all their speculation once this case develops a little bit more. And, we've got, like Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk, these cases are fresh. We haven't even had
They're fresh. This is a year. Almost a year. Happened in September. This was streamed 2 days ago. No, we should have a lot more answers. And granted, until we actually get into the trial, it's very, very responsible for people like Gary Melton or Megyn Kelly or any of these people to be out there saying that Tyler Robinson did it. We have overwhelming evidence. What is this overwhelming evidence? They've never produced it. They just keep on repeating and repeating and repeating. And that is, definitely a tactic of the PSYOP. You just repeat a lie often enough and people start believing it. They keep on going, the presumption of innocence and, waiting till the evidence comes in, when Candace Owens is saying, well, what about this, all sorts of examination of the official story that is not making sense. I mean, from the beginning, it was like Megyn Kelly and Cher Denise. Right away, the authorities, like Gary said, just trust the authorities. The authorities, they're not going to lie. They're not going to do anything wrong. Just trust the authorities, the experts. They know what they're doing. We don't have to question anything. Well, no, because most of them don't know what they're doing, and a lot of them are bought off or involved in nefarious activity themselves. And this whole thing of, oh, our government would never do anything wrong. I mean, he starts out the whole thing saying, oh, I don't trust the government. And then he contradicts himself all the time.
Preliminary hearing on that yet. We've got a ton of evidence. We've got a lot of arguments that are going to be made. And at some point, I think a lot of these questions will be answered. And if they're not answered, there's going to be a good reason, I would suspect, as to why they're not being answered. Like if the defense doesn't make certain arguments, probably a reason why, because there's not a good faith basis and not, legitimate justification to make those arguments. So where there's like these frenzies that occurred, and we lived through this back during George Floyd, back during COVID, there was a frenzy where everybody's just like, sharks in the water, just kind of circling and circling and circling. And you really can't make sense of it. So if I catch myself in a frenzy, I just like to hit the brakes, try to put myself on the other position's shoes and see if there's an absence of evidence that can explain some of the speculation and some of the filling in of the gaps, rather than just presuming those things to be true.
Yeah, no, look, we all have our own biases, and I think that's really important when we're trying to objectively analyze what's going on and not coming to a...
We all have our own biases, and that's why we have to be aware of them in order to be objective. I mean, Gary, please tell me where you have a bias. Where's your bias? The military-industrial complex that has been your bread and butter and continues to be your bread and butter with all those guns behind you? I mean, that's why, I mean, Gary's a mouthpiece for the military-industrial complex. It doesn't matter if they're paying him a check directly, which I don't think is the case. He's making more than enough money with his contracts for his company and this podcast. They don't need to be paid money under the table. They've found a way to pay it above the board. Above the
conclusion
table.
First, and then looking for evidence of what we believe took place, because I see that a lot. I really do think that that is the underpinning. And then, of course, there's just people out there that know how to sensationalize any gap of information. They will look for an opportunity to, on either side of this, and say, you know what, this information isn't there. Let me fill you in on what I think took place there. And unfortunately, it really does muddy the water.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that. They don't look, they're not keeping up with the story, not listening to other people. Gary does that often. Or they, jump to conclusions or just make, make up things. George Webb, that's an interesting case. That really is an interesting case, not only from a legal perspective, but also from a psychology perspective. That guy is a piece of work. I'm like, you could go crazy, just listen to him alone. Oh my God, that would be a good form of torture. You put somebody in solitary confinement and have to listen to George Webb for 24 hours a day.
People confused, and then it gets said enough a lot of times to where now it's accepted almost as fact.
Yeah, I think that is true. And it's, I think, very common, right? I mean, people, you never let a crisis go to waste. You always try to frame it in a way that's going to serve whatever your narrative is. I think that, what we attempt to do is just...
You never let a crisis go to waste. Catch that?
To try to reason through it. Yeah. And I think that ultimately that these persuasive types of emotional appeals, even though they cause these frenzies, I think most people are pretty reasonable. And if you can just be level-headed and present the evidence, present the documents, and make the arguments in a consistent fashion and show kind of what's happening behind the scenes. And I think when it comes to legal cases too, this is a big problem because lawyers and law, by almost necessity and by the way that they've matured over the years, is very obtuse. It's very hard to see exactly what's going on. Even for lawyers, you can take a look at these cases and they're convoluted. Everybody's filing a bazillion motions. There's a massive fog of war, so nobody can see anything, right? Prosecution gives the defense a bunch of discovery. It's terabytes of data, tens of thousands of images, hundreds of thousands of pages of documents. And so we're all just kind of speculating. There's like a lot of noise, but not a lot of signal because there's just this huge tranche of data that you can't see through. So people fill in the gaps, then they go to the court dockets and there's all these motions filing back and forth. It's kind of, it's madness out there. So the easiest thing to do is to then just fill in the gaps and just say, well, it must be this or it must be that. When in reality, there's probably, in many of these cases, probably a more coherent explanation that will ultimately come out. But it requires the difficult thing of just being patient, and kind of reserving your judgment until the facts are developed and the cases materialize further. So
well, that's what Candace is doing. Is examining the different facts and offering it up to people to examine these different facts and try and figure out what's going on here. Because what the authorities are saying is definitely not true. And the case has been bungled. I mean, I don't understand why Tyler Robinson's lawyers have not been making public statements. You usually have that in these high profile cases. I mean, I'm working globally, buddy. I'm talking to Robert. Ask any victim of the court, can you recommend a lawyer? Can you? No. We've got underground railroads that are assisting women escaping with their children. And they're being pursued by FBI, Interpol. We've had women who have been incarcerated trying to protect their children. I mean, all sorts of shit going down. Well, the lawyers make lots of money either as lawyers or as podcasters and amuse themselves.
And lawyers also do this too. Lawyers hide the ball, right? You call a lawyer, and anybody who's ever hired a lawyer, oftentimes, I ran into this a lot when I was practicing. People would come to our office and they would say, you gave me answers. You gave me actual clarity on how the process works. What can I expect? What could the maximum penalty be? What's my likely, plea deal going to look like? And we would just lay it all out. And that's exactly, really how we got started on YouTube is I just went through all of the Arizona revised statutes and explained how they worked specifically, making 20, 30-minute videos that broke it down in layman's terms. Because other lawyers, you go into their office, they say, well, I can help you. And I know the answer, but only if you hire me. And so there's like this black box of specialized knowledge that lawyers and certain people will hide behind.
Oh, that's for sure. But I doubt he's so different. I highly doubt that this guy is some angel and beacon amongst all of the lawyers. I mean, the law firm that handled my case in Spain is one of the largest and most prestigious law firms, not only in Spain, but also in Portugal. When we submitted it to the International Criminal Courts under Crimes Against Humanity, I think that was 21, 22, I contacted them and I said, look, I want to move on with my life, get my global expats project up and going, go back to my kids, I can't go to Spain unless I have the protection of somebody. I barely made it out alive. That was the idea of my mother that I didn't. Yeah, well, I thwarted all odds. I mean, Muslim women from the Middle East coming here in this situation, they're welcomed with open arms and given book deals and podiums and all sorts of, nonprofits, fraudulent nonprofits that are promoting anti-Muslim rhetoric. This guy's Portuguese or from a Portuguese family. See, I mean, the Portuguese and the Spaniards, their constitution is 200 years older than ours. They have almost a utopian constitution. But none of the lawyers, I was flabbergasted when I started visiting lawyers in Madrid. They're all a bunch of goddamn criminals. And all of these big corporate law firms, we got them all over Washington. The one where the son of the senator that I used to work for, Steptoe Johnson, that's one that I've got up a creek without a paddle. Squire Patton Boggs is my favorite. So, yeah, apparently this guy's moved up to DC. Oh, God. Okay, buddy. Come on in. Come on in. We'll find you a place in a prison cell pretty soon.
In the scenes, and you only get the magical access to it if you pay them a big fat fee, and then all of a sudden it becomes clear. So it's obtuse. In many ways, that's by design. It's how the system works, and it can be very complicated. So it's easier for people to just speculate, come to conclusions. And I agree. I think in many ways it's not helpful because it perverts a real conversation from happening.
If my lawyers in Spain had done as I had told them to do and argue, I wouldn't have ended up like this, but no. We know everything. They don't know shit. They want to push papers, and that's it. And charge you lots of money. My favorite in Spain was, wait a second, I got a lawyer and I got to pay a procuradora to screw me over. Oh, they're like, oh no, she's a deadbeat. She's a deadbeat. She doesn't pay her bills. Oh, wait a second. If you hire somebody to fix your house and it falls down, you're not going to pay them. You're going to sue them. One of the lawyers, he said to me, now this was a court-appointed lawyer, he said, cállate, tonta. I've been doing this for 25 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. I was like, oh my God, don't tell me that this guy has been doing this shit for 25 years. Because I was like, I need all of the documents, all of the financial records and stuff like that. That's what I've got to concentrate on. My kids, I'm going to lose, the way this is set up, I know I'm going to lose custody of my kids. That's, let my eldest, he was turning 16, the youngest 15. So I was like, okay, I'll, just concentrate on the financial records. I thought I'd get to the United States, to DC, and be like, okay, this is bullshit. I got all of the evidence, all of these nonprofits, women's rights, children's rights, human rights, civil rights, they're all fraudulent. I thought that this would be wrapped up like that. I find, no, I go, in fact, it was Paula Lucas. She gave me the name. She's like the Federation American Women's Club overseas domestic violence expert. The whole goddamn thing, all of the Federation American Women's overseas people, oh, that's huge. I want to see them in court as much as the IMF Family Association, World Bank Family Association. I mean, if anybody should be fighting these issues for the trad wife, it's these expat wives clubs. And it's disgusting what they're doing. You talk about gold digging, whore, parasites. They're all in bed with the corporate and diplomatic corps. In the meantime, this guy goes around saying what a great lawyer he is and how much he's knowledgeable. I'm like, yeah, you're in for a rude awakening, buddy. You've been working in these little courts in Phoenix where you got all of your little network where somebody can get out of DUI here and you help them there because you know the right people. See, that's what a protection racket is, and that's precisely why the courts are such a mess. It's who you know and not, like any kind of dedication to the Constitution or rule of law. It's all about who you know and how much money you got. And that's a huge problem. And to keep on denying that exists is just a psyop.
We may just be talking about stuff that is disproven later. It's totally irrelevant, but in the meantime, it just feeds this frenzy that continues on and on.
Yeah, and unfortunately, no matter once a lie is pervasive, whether it's on social media or just in society, there's really no pulling it back and correcting the record. That's the unfortunate part of this. And the other big thing that I constantly am fighting myself.
Is he stupid or what? Of course, there's a way. I mean, might take some work, but of course, there's a way of debunking lies that are out there. If enough people say, no, that's not true, we've demonstrated it's not true, well, that's how you debunk a lie.
My own mind is like, there's the reality the perception of reality that we have on social media, and then kind of like you talked about, the reasonable among us, which is the large majority of people that aren't spending every moment on X and social media and YouTube and everything else. And it's hard to kind of sometimes figure out that delta that's in between those.
I love how Gary tries to condescendingly, oh, well, all of these people who are on these social media platforms, they're stupid peons. Us guys, we know the deal. This arrogance just, it drives me freaking crazy.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, I do think people get dug in on it, and it is difficult to unring that bell. I'm hopeful that the more people are able to have real conversations about these things, and I think in certain cases, the more time elapses and cases develop, I'm hopeful that certain mistruths or false speculations will ultimately be eliminated, because the data and the evidence and the actions of certain defendants will explain that, right? It'll fill in the gap, and then hopefully those mistruths can go away. But you see it like with the Epstein stuff. You see a lot of, I think, one side of the country, no matter what you tell them, they're going to say that there's an Epstein class or a pedophile protector and all these things. These are, persuasive phrases that go into people's heads, and it's really hard to unring the bell on those. And
it's true. I've been naming the names. Everybody I know. It is true. And they're covering up, and I've demonstrated to them, how they don't have to be like planning something to be involved in collusion or accessory after the fact. If they're aware of things, which I know they are because I've notified them, I've been posting all of the information about the problems in the courts, even the NFL, they're breeding babies in order to sexually abuse them. I mean, these little girls are told from birth, boys and girls are told from birth that they were brought in the world for that. This is with the NFL. See, this guy, he wants to be on his little ivory tower and picture perfect world. Mommy knows best, or excuse me, father knows best, and mommy knows best. Mommy is dearest, and father knows best. And Nancy and Ronald Reagan of 1950 GE with their beautiful showcase house. That's the paradigm that these guys want to protect and defend.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying it's extremely emotional too. Like, all of us, 99% of us, except for the worst among us, like once we start talking about, the PDF stuff, we have a visceral reaction to that.
Exactly. And you don't want even to give an inch on that, lest you be somebody seen to be
just about, I forget the statistics, but everybody out there are PDFs in their entourages, and either their family or their close friends. With Virginia Giuffre, it was supposedly a close friend of the family or neighbor that sexually abused her when she was 9 to 11, apparently. That's what groomed her, as well as everybody sweeping it under the carpet, and she has behavioral problems. So she becomes a runaway instead of dealing with it. No, she becomes a ward of CPS, and like many, that's such a shit. The whole thing's a mess. They are part of the child protection services. That's like such an oxymoron. It's not even funny. They are abusing children. They are just part of the problem, as well as the adoption services. And that this man, no, we're all good. This is a picture perfect world, and we just need to submit the right paperwork to the courts, and everything's going to be fine.
An alliance or in alliance with that group of people.
Yeah.
So it's hard to even, argue back against that for many people. But we just moved to DC, and I'm from Arizona. So in Arizona, it's not nearly as political as it is here. And, we'll be out walking the dog. I'll run into people, dogs sniffing each other, and people will ask what we do. And I say, we talk law, we talk politics, a lot of Supreme Court decisions and so on. And they're like spring loaded. It's the first thing out of their mouth is they just.
So he moved to DC. I'd love to know. I'm sure he's got a nice little apartment or a nice little house and stuff. I mean, I'm apartment hunting again, a room, looking for a room. I mean, it's disgusting here. We got rats and luckily they're not entering in the room, but they do enter into the common living rooms. They're up above in the rafters. I see them out in the window here because there's a ledge there. But so let's see, this guy, I don't know what his, but the bathroom, absolutely disgusting. Before that, I had a pedophile, and yeah, he was constantly flashing me. And then a kid who was constantly threatening to kill us all. He had a knife or gun. But I'm just happy I'm not out on the streets in a tent. But see, this guy, he's moved to DC, and I'm sure with a hefty little salary and a very nice living accommodations. I mean, I saw a place, wonderful. And I mean, it's as much as I'm paying now because I have stuff in storage. So it's the same outlay in cash. I'm maintaining that. I mean, all I do is pay rent, enough food to keep me alive. I mean, I'm lucky I work in the restaurant business, so you know that cuts off your food. And you know, Wi-Fi and to keep online. And I could do with a decent computer. I mean, I've been struggling to survive as a social media influencer for 18 years because I will not sell my soul. And this guy, I'd like to know how much he sold his soul for.
Just jump out. Can you believe what Trump is doing to the DOJ? It's like just like vomiting out of their mouths. And I'm just like, wow, like these people, you know, people kind of joke about TDS and this kind of mental thing that's going on. But man, I've experienced it in real time from multiple nice little old ladies walking their dogs, just losing it at the first mention of politics. And it's not even hardly worth engaging with them. So what am I going to say to them? They're not budging from this programming that has been inserted into their brain like a chip. And I think it's unfortunate because, you know, how
these guys, it's the same thing. That's why everybody, I agree, these ladies with their stupid dogs. I mean, oh my God. All of these people with their comfort dogs and their comfort animals, they need to get a life. And they're in for a rude awakening. I mean, believe me, the DC people, I've had it. You know, nobody should feel sorry for anybody in DC who loses their job and have to go back home and like this guy and buck it up and start real work instead of propaganda on the internet. Because yeah, Robert Gouvet, formerly Gouvet. Huh. I wonder, hold on. Let's see what, because as I said, the Gouvet, that is Portuguese. My little tab is moving. Because whenever anybody's changing their names, German. So why is he changing his name to a, where is he now? Why is he changing his last name? That always like, I mean, why do people change their name? I don't understand that. Okay, when I got married, of course, Gonzalez de Alcala was, you know, but that's because I got married. I mean, when I got divorced, I took back my own name. So he received a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from Arizona State University. Arizona State University is a problem. He graduated magna cum laude. Okay, so we know this is straight A, Dean's honor list, so we know this is a real brown noser. Recipient of the Provost Scholarship. Again, knows how to work the system. Received his Juris Doctorate from the Phoenix School of Law, graduating top 15 of his class. Again, straight A. Oh, see, my older sister, she was the one with straight A's. And I mean, my mom, she was always like, all your teachers say that you could be a straight A student if you just put in a little effort. I was like, well, you make it interesting and I'll knock your socks off. And then when the IQ tests that they do on the kids came back from school, I was like, well, what are the results? Oh, those tests don't mean anything. She and I both know that I was the one who had inherited my father's genius and ability to connect dots that other people just don't get. And you're hated for it by your wife, your husband, your siblings, everybody. I mean, it really, the girls from Foxcroft, disgusting, disgusting. I mean, I was always helping everybody. When I was in school, people loved it because I'd help them pass the test in the class. I mean, my favorite was the international econ class that even the econ majors failed at least once. I got a 98 and then tutored the students, the rest of the students, or a group of students for the final, and they all passed with flying colors. I was like, look, forget everything he said. He's making his subject too complicated. He's talking over your head. I mean, I just had always, I understand concepts that sometimes people take longer to understand really quickly. And, you know, everybody has their gifts. And I mean, I've never charged anybody. When I was in school, I made money from babysitting, but it was like, no, I would never even consider charging. I mean, I just, whatever. Okay, while in law school, he was part of the Criminal Law Society, again, the Federalist Society, and was the vice managing editor of the Law Review. Oh yeah, this guy drinks and passes out Kool-Aid anywhere he goes. He has studied, practiced, and innovated in the field of criminal defense law, is licensed to practice in the state of Arizona, California, U.S. Federal District for Arizona, and the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah, the U.S. Supreme Court, that is, it's so politicized, it's not even funny. Basically useless. Has been featured. Oh, and one of the things, I was listening to some woman, Hemingway, the head of the Federalist Society. That's another thing. Even the conservatives, you got women all over the place. And she was saying, no, a lot of the Supreme Court judges that have come on in recent years, it's like, well, I don't care what the Constitution says, it's my interpretation. We don't even consider the Constitution anymore. Oh, like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Joan Meyer of DV Leap, that little so-and-so, that's at GW. I mean, the victims across the country are furious with her. I mean, you talk about when we get that, finally our day of reckoning, and she's exposed, you better protect her from a mob. Because these women are furious, furious. I mean, a lot of them want death penalty. Carrie Bettinger Lopez is in there. She was the advisor to the White House on violence against women, and that was it was the vice president or the vice president Biden. All of them. Well, this guy has been graduating at the top of his class, becoming all of the joining all of these little clubs. to grapple up the ladder of success, play the game. See, he is considered a great success story. I mean, everyone I know, okay, my mom's passed away now, but no, I'm the problem. I won't pass out Kool-Aid. I won't compromise myself. That's why I can't, that's why I've been marginalized. It's not because I'm exposing people who should be doing a job and who are not doing it or doing it incorrectly. I mean, Joan Meyer, she's like the typical in academia. She just wants, I mean, I saw this from the beginning. All she wants is a slam dunker case out there for the Supreme Court so she can say that she won a Supreme Court case. I mean, I'm like, excuse me, lady. Each year we have 70,000 women who are killed by family members. This is global statistics. And all you care about is getting a slam dunker for the U.S. Supreme Court. We've got Women's Link Worldwide. That's an initiative, women's rights, filled with a bunch of goddamn feminists. I want to see them all in court. They were the lead counsel on González Carreño versus Spain. That's a CEDAW case, 2014. They've been giving me the finger, just like Baltasar Garzón, universal jurisdiction champion in Spain, for the past 18 years. I want to see them all in court. See, while this guy has been building his stellar career, I've been hard at work. Let's see. Rob has been featured in numerous news stories, including being named one of Arizona's 35 top entrepreneurs under the age of 35 by the Arizona Republic in 2006. Now, I've been trying to get my Global Expats project up for 20 years. It was when the Microsoft, the business developer, became interested in it in 2007 that my ex-husband flipped out. He thought I was going to get the partner and the funding that I needed. I mean, this whole thing about entrepreneurs, 70 to 90% of their businesses fail within the first 5 to 10 years. And these are great entrepreneurs. I mean, Jeffrey Hilton in California, he contacted me. I think that came through from James Ryan in Tokyo. That's the only thing that makes sense. But when he said, well, what do you need? A CEO or a techie liberal partner? I said, well, either. Like, what are you going to do here? Well, the social media influencing the marketing. But Meghan Markle, I mean, she's been struggling with that business model for a long time. The problem is the message that she's handing out got some people scratching their heads and checking into her past and seeing she's just another, Erica Kirk, one lie after another thing. She was a honeypot. Her years in Canada was when she was in training. So take this guy's opinion with a grain of salt. Now, my favorite is Rob is on the board of Eric's House, a nonprofit organization committed to helping others heal after a tragic loss. Most recently is the host of the YouTube channel Watching the Watchers, which is a live show dedicated to holding those in our criminal justice system accountable. I mean, psyop. So I really am going to have to start looking into this guy. But, so Eric's House, I looked at that. What was that? Let's see, National Regional Grief and Loss Support is a sanctuary based in Arizona providing grief support nationwide for those bereaved by suicide or substance abuse. Well, let's stop having people commit so many suicides and get them off all of their drugs. Much better way to proceed. Oh, well, this is another one, women's care home. You know, how much, let's see. ProPublica, Eric's home. Oh no, Eric's house in Phoenix, nonprofit. See, you can find, you look at ProPublica, let's see, hopefully it'll bring it up. So they, this is the fiscal ending 2020. I mean, okay, so this is outdated, but it gives us a little bit. Maybe it closed? I'm not sure. So you've got, okay. So it looks like it doesn't have much money. I mean, less than $1 million is, let's see. Yeah, total of 328. So it doesn't look to be like one of these, because a lot of the times you'll have like $10 million, $50 million, and then you got to say, well, okay, what are they doing here? So see, you can see their expenses. I mean, people should be going through all of this. Dues and subscriptions, $10,000. What's that about? Dues and subscriptions to what? I mean, these are expenses. This is not revenue. Training, 6,000. Utilities went up 6,000. Professional fees, landscaping, 2,500. Grant writing, furniture, blah blah blah. Okay, but that's strange. It's only, maybe they filed under another. Sometimes they'll change. Well, this is Fountain Hill, Eric's House, Inc. So I'm not sure if this is the same one. Let's do this. And what's his name? Robert. Well, that's strange. See, ProPublica, it should pop it up right away. I think Google is not liking me. Let's do this. I think Google has said she's looking at too many of these. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's just do it. And then I'll leave it alone. And Eric's House nonprofit. Let's see if this is another one. Yeah, see, there's another. Oh, but see, this is GU. I already got a GU. I'm not sure where GU is. Let's see who's on this. Karen Carpenter. Not the singer, I assume. So that's 0. So that doesn't. See, sometimes you gotta. Eric's House in Arizona. Okay, well this, yeah, see, that's the 2020. And you've got Net assets 150,000. So as I say, looks like a small operation. So it's not like laundering money to give a bunch of party politicers six-figure salaries so then they can go and lobby in their respective, either at the state level. But it's just funny that there's only 2006 there. Excuse me, 2020, but only 1 year. Because normally this will give you the whole focus. This refers to the investigative report by the Arizona Daily Star focusing on Eric Nunn, a 29-year-old man with Down syndrome living in Scottsdale, Arizona, highlighting the state's severe delays, denials, and systemic failures in providing long-term care and day programs. Well, I'm not sure what this is all about. Oh, that just looks ProPublica. Yeah, that's strange. Normally, I mean, with ProPublica, normally you get all of that information. Really don't know what's going on there. But anyway, yeah, so it would definitely be look at, let's see if they have here, our approach, events, news articles, outreach, resources. Yeah, okay, let's see, staff and volunteers. Okay, Georgia Fox, Director of Development, Jessica Davis, bookkeeper, bunch of women. Oh, great. Mariana Gouffre, okay, his wife, I assume. She's a certified grief recovering specialist. Yeah. Okay, so she's making money from all of the drug addiction and suicides and stuff like that. 35 years as an aerospace and defense executive, president and vice president, along with other capacities within with a concentration on international business development, program management. Okay, this gets into all of, my issues with the World Bank, international business development. She owned and operated an international aerospace company for more than 10 years. Okay, yeah, we're getting the picture here now. Business coaching certification. Oh, see, all of the coaches, bye-bye. Oh, my Lord, I'm tired of the coaches. There's Sarah Happel. She was the chair of the IMF Family Association. She was a leadership coach. I'm like, Sarah, you might want to show some leadership before you start coaching people on leadership. Leadership has been in let's lead and covering up all of this shit and just sweeping stuff under the carpet instead of, yeah, ladies, this is not going on under my watch. See, that's what true leadership is. Being aware of what's going on and saying, nope, not on my watch. Okay. Professional excellence in coaching, professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. Let me vomit. This is so corporate. After the loss of her youngest son, Marianne chose to turn her tragedy into good for others. She founded Eric's House. What, did he commit suicide? Or drug problem? See, yeah, Marianne, in the mommy wars, everybody wants to destroy me and my sons. Yeah. See, yeah. Okay, so you're going to have to prove that women can have it all, be good mothers, and successful careers as these coaches. I mean, this is so psyop. This is all part of the MK Ultra. These devastating losses in order to integrate their grief so they might find joy and happiness again. I mean, I've been separated. Okay, I thank God every day that my children, my sons are alive, and I live for the day to be reunited with them. I mean, I know from experience, many of these kids that are handed over to their abusers, they do commit suicide. They do end up with drug addictions. I mean, my Lord, listen to Cheryl Denise and Ethel Kennedy. I mean, is it is wonder? Her daughters have become psychopaths. And Bobby, I mean, I keep on saying either you become a psychopath or you become a drug addict around these people. But this is another, oh, no. Let's maintain the facade. My son committed suicide or overdosed, but it's not my fault. I was a good mother. I did everything right. Okay. Yeah, great. Eric's house helped people rise, survive, and thrive even in the face of devastation. So I'll have to do a little bit more of a look-see at this family, see if they either have some other kids, what happened there. I mean, Eric Bowling, you talk about your stolen valor. He claims that his family goes back to Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, I think it was his sister, married a Bowling. It was his grandparents or something came from somewhere in Europe. I think it's in Northern Europe, like Viking stuff. I'm like, screw you, buddy. In his book, he claims that he's got, ties to Thomas Jefferson. I'm like, I contacted him about the founding fathers, John Dickinson, because John Dickinson and Thomas Jefferson were really the architects of most of the documents. One of which was the Olive Branch petition, and the letter that I sent to King Charles in 2008 is an updated version of the Olive Branch petition. It's just, we've already had the revolution. This time I'm writing back to our crown saying, things didn't go out so well. It didn't go down in the past 200 years like it was supposed to. And we're really in the same boat of a lot of these issues and problems. So, like, you are being psyoped by your military-industrial complex and your mainstream media with Robert Maxwell there at the head. This is going on in the United States. So, yeah, we deposed you many moons ago and several kings ago. But maybe we could work together, because the West is on its downfall, in good part because of the British Empire and the Queen Victoria's brood of children. Now, all of these need to be kicked in the butt and told to get to work and do their social media influencing for their subjects. That's the job of a monarch. That's why you have they're not voted in. I mean, we see what a chaos that has created with the American system. Now, the British system is not doing too well either. And part of it is because of people like Candace Owens' husband and his father. I mean, his father became a baron, because he was contributing to the increasing high risk, high yield and the financial markets. See, Queen Elizabeth, she came in as a young girl uh, influenced by Winston Churchill and stayed that little young girl who wanted to rule the roost. I mean, look what she did to her marriage to Prince Philip. These are not success stories. And then look with her sons and her grandchildren with their marriages. See, if she had been a trad wife and you know, shared the monarchy with her husband, like she really should have done, then things would have been very, very different. Both for her and her husband in their marriage, for their children, and for the UK. So outside her corporate life, she experienced a number of life transitions encompassing career, business, loss of a sibling, loss of a child, loss of parents, a divorce, a Down syndrome son, a Down syndrome sister. Okay, yeah, well, I am sorry for her losses, but somebody who knows how to evoke sympathy. See, when I got involved with the courts in Spain, the domestic violence nonprofits, anda, niña, no llores, no llores. This is how, yeah. Oh my goodness, you poor little thing. Don't cry. I'm like, fuck that shit. Yeah. Do you want us to send you to a shelter? No. Why am I going to leave the house and go to a shelter? And also, that's one of their little tricks. Don't ever do that. I'm like, well, he's the one who can't control himself. You tell him to go to someplace. And don't give me any of this shit of anda niña no llores. I don't want a shoulder to cry on. I want a lawyer who knows what the fuck they're doing and is not going to stab me in the back and not going to try and cover up evidence that should be submitted to the courts. We've been doing this for years and years and years and years, and there are women who have passed. Connie Valentine of the California CCPA, California Child Protective Association, something like that. But, oh, see, when Connie Valentine, at the end, oh, she needs to step down. There was a power play by all of the victims. I mean, this is why we don't get anywhere. See, we're up against people like Marianne with her husband, Robert Goulet. I don't know why he's changing the name. I'll have to find out about this woman's other marriage, because apparently she's a divorce. I don't think that she's divorced from this guy. Oh, and they got another aerospace mate. See, oh Lord. Okay, so then we got some Christian. Yeah. Well, we see with TPUSA. I mean, see, this is the Christian, whether it be my Catholic mother and all of her friends, or the TPUSA crowd and stuff like that. I mean, most people I know who are like, the more they talk about how Christian they are, and more they quote the Bible, and they justify everything that they do with the Bible, the more of the hypocrites and psychopaths they are. Just consist. Oh, her studies at the Chaplaincy Institute in Berkeley, California. Oh God, Berkeley is a problem, as much as Stanford, Columbia, Harvard, Yale. It's in there, but I've seen them less there at Yale, but every place. Okay, spiritual director, oh God, grief companion and support group facilitator. Yeah, all of this, easing one's conscience with charity work It's got to stop. Got to stop. Stop the suicides. Stop the overdoses. I mean, the country is in epidemic proportions. And you start in nonprofit so that the people who were behind the suicide or drug addiction of their loved ones can feel better.
How do you govern a country? How can you be one cohesive nation if you have that, right? We're supposed to be able to reason with each other, debate and dialogue, and look at facts and evidence and then come to our own conclusions. And I support all of that completely. But there are certain people who are just dug into the point that they can't even step back and just ask themselves, even, and I get this way too. I have to stop and reflect and say, am I thinking through this right? Because I feel like this emotional impulse, this like rage almost bubbling up. You have to like tap in and just pause, count to 10 like mom taught us, and reflect. What is that? What is causing me to be so triggered? But I'm not sure there's a lot of that going on anymore, and there's benefits.
Okay, I'm thinking of his nonprofit there, Eric's House. Seems to me quite a few people on their staff, and but we only saw the IRS tax return for 2020. But that seems like an awful lot of people on a staff for less than $1 million of income. So what's going on there? Because see, these nonprofits, they're being used to promote different agendas, to launder money, to produce lots of jobs for seat warmers. I mean, but it's all very, very few are really either fulfilling their mission or doing what they say they're doing, or not involved in some shady stuff one way or another.
Of picking a side, right? You get polarized, you pick a side, and people find their in-group, and it becomes almost tribal in a way that, unfortunately, in some cases, deviates from the conversation.
No, I agree. And, the ironic thing is that we hear the term critical thinking thrown around more than ever, and I see less and less of it. And this is like being self-critical too, because like you said, I constantly, as I'm going through a conclusion that I've come to, I'm like, okay, what elements of this are just my opinion, or do I have actual facts that are backing this up? And it's like, hey, let's go ahead.
I highly doubt he ever does that. I'd like to see him go through that process on air.
Head and kind of play devil's advocate against myself. Like, let's go through and see what I actually, what is true and what is not, and then figure that out and see if I didn't come to a wrong conclusion. I don't think there's enough self-criticism and analysis of our own opinions and our own conclusions. And at the same time, we'll like, oh, just be a critical thinker. Or, my other thing is Occam's razor. Occam's razor clearly says that there was a multi-agency conspiracy with all kinds of different people, and, they're faking the evidence and none of it's true. Like, that's not Occam's razor at all. But I think it's really important that we do that. We kind of self-analyze, be critical of what we believe, and make sure that we are separating emotion, opinion from actual facts, and then making sure that we have the facts straight. Because I think most people out there most people at least start off in good faith, and they accidentally come to a conclusion based on just a really bad information. I saw this literally in my comments today. It was like somebody's like, there's no way that Tyler Robinson could have shot Charlie Kirk because he couldn't even see him from his position underneath the tent. I'm like, dude, I got a 3D model that I had made. And I can tell you right now, and we have photos from the crime scene that prove that there was a clear line of sight. But, when you start believing...
See, this is, again, not keeping up with all of the details that have come out in the investigation. This is why, there's been a lot of chatter that goes nowhere. But that's what investigation is about. That's what research is about. But so the thing about not being able to see, apparently there was a tree that was there that would have blocked the line of fire, the line of sight from the roof. That's what this woman was talking about. She's been watching some podcasts, and they were saying he wouldn't, the line of sight wouldn't have wouldn't have had it because there was a tree there that they then afterwards chopped down. Now, I don't know if his little reconstruction included the tree or not. So see, once again, oh, no, I did a reconstruction. Yeah, well, maybe your reconstruction was wrong.
You're basing your beliefs in those assumptions that are based on bad information. There's no way that you can, and on top of that, you're just going to build from there. Like, that's fake.
See, your assumptions based on bad information. You saw this, he went to the crime scene. He went to the crime scene, he saw it. But did he check out this report that apparently there had been a tree there that was knocked down or chopped down? Now, I haven't verified that. I'm taking these different things on good faith. But that was the report, that there was, the whole thing that they paved over the crime scene right away, that didn't make sense either. That people in the community don't ask, wait a second, what are you doing? I think it was even Gary who said that, or no, maybe this was Valhalla, that when they were in Afghanistan and they would see young boys being raped and attacked, that they weren't supposed to intervene because these are just the traditions of the country. I'm like, what the frick of the military? That's bullshit. It's precisely because the feminists are advancing those type of ideologies and promoting that stuff just like they have in the US. This is why we got PDFs all over the place. They've been promoting that to terrorize communities. And the Taliban, that's one of the reasons why the Taliban gained support, grassroots support, because it was challenging all of this Western feminist bullshit. Now, unfortunately, it didn't understand all of the ideologies and agendas of the feminists and didn't really know what it's up against, and just getting angry and violent. And that's why we have the terrorist attacks. But the angry, violent men amongst the Muslim community is no different than any other of the communities. And they're getting angry because they've been castrated by the women. These two particularly.
That's not real. So I'm going to go to the next conclusion, and the more that we stack those errors, the worse of an opinion that we're going to come to at the end of it.
Yeah, it turns into confirmation bias, and then people just want to continue to seek out evidence that supports their underlying belief. When it comes to Tyler Robinson, I think that, again, we just
on their supporters, yeah. There's been a lot of infighting as well between the people investigating the different theories about the Tyler Robinson involvement in all of this and the assassination. So there's been some squabbling and infighting that shouldn't be, and that's why I'm like, you all really needed a project manager for this shit, but you can't work together. And that's why your adversaries are gaining traction on their side. Now, if you were united, these guys would be blown away. But nobody can work together. My poor father, years and years ago, he said, what you need is everybody to work together, allies. I'm like, I know, Dad, but nobody wants to work together. Nobody.
Can't see so much of what is actually out there. And we're so early in this case, and I think it's another year or two maybe before we get real substantive developments on it, that a lot of this stuff you'll start to ask. Hopefully I think there is a bucket of people that will not change their opinion no matter what. It's locked in. They're not going anywhere. But I think there's another group of people who are a little bit more reasonable, who are willing to look at new evidence. And then when certain arguments are not made at a trial, when the defense team doesn't make that argument or doesn't make that argument, or if they flip from a full acquittal strategy, right? They don't want to acquit him and say he's not the shooter, he's a patsy, he's a fill-in, into a mitigation type of component where they try to just get him off the death penalty, and kind of have a life without parole type of argument, then the evidence will come out. And I think it hopefully will answer a lot of those questions. But the thing I think that is a little bit more troubling about this is that when people start to attack that second bucket, like when there's a group of people who are just trying to reason through it and make sense of what's going on and maybe be persuaded to one side or the other, then when you just start attacking them, I don't know about you, but when somebody's attacking me and just saying you're an idiot, or you're a loser, or you're a conspiracy theorist or something, it hardens my resolve into that position. So I remember this explicitly during COVID, maybe the best example. But I was very upset about the lockdowns. I did not appreciate them stripping away our liberties in order to handle this thing that after the data came out, we started to see was not as horrific as it was for a certain population of people. Okay, so but we got called conspiracy theorists. I got emails from other lawyers. I was speaking out about this at the time. They send me emails like, you're destroying your career. You're ruining your reputation. You have no idea what you're talking about. Like, leave it to the experts. That hardened my position. That hardened my resolve. Yeah. And I started to then be less.
He got a taste of his own medicine. Leave it to the experts. Leave it to the experts. I promise you, all of the lawyers think that they're God's gift to the world and an expert. And if they would check their egos at the door, they would be doing a better job.
Inclined to accept any of their alternative theories because I was anchored in. I really dug my heels in. And I think we were vindicated on that in hindsight. But same thing with January 6th, same thing with a lot of these other issues that pop up. It anchors people in. Whereas I think that having a good faith conversation, saying, let's explore these things. I like to say, like, this is like a
good faith, okay. So yeah, we got his number. I'll finish this has been going on for more than 3 hours. So yeah, another one that just exposed as part of this whole military industrial complex psyop, and how obviously this guy, he's been drinking and passing out Kool-Aid, being a good boy like he's supposed to do within our educational systems, and it produces these brown nosers. As I say, there are people all over the place. Going into names and names and names, but like there's Robert Stuckey. He's in Baltimore. His wife, I know her from Spain. She was always in love with my ex-husband and has just been so delighted with my downfall. She's a real piece of work. Yeah, she's going to have some problems with this reverse mortgage shit. Anyway, his wife, the accusations, there are some PDF stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So if he's really innocent, well, then wouldn't he want to defend his good name and help me with cleaning up the courts if it's really true that his wife was lying and his sons were lying? But the thing is with him, he was a preacher and she destroyed his career. So that was like, okay, well, maybe she was just lying because she was going to destroy his career. This is something that we see. So, innocent until proven guilty. I'm not going to believe the courts because I know the games that are played. Go online, Google, say how to win in a divorce, any country in the world, and you will find a guidebook on how to do it. How to screw over your husband, how to screw over your wife. I'm like, yeah, I'm not playing that game, you guys. No. You're going to clean up your freaking court. This whole thing of, whoever has the upper hand. I couldn't believe a Spanish woman here in DC that I worked with. She's like, oh, yeah, it's, just luck of the draw. Whoever is the most ruthless and whoever wins at the game is the one who holds the prize. I'm like, okay, fine. That's a dangerous road you're going down. Because I've been going after y'all under RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Enemy Alien Act, and International Human Rights Conventions. So your goose is cooked. If those are the rules, whoever's smarter and knows how to work the system better than the other person, You know, you shake their hand and say, well done, you won, you get everything. We're going to go now and live on a tent in the street and hand you over all of our money. You caught us. See how everybody who has been justifying their actions and all of their greed and their jealousies for 20 years now. I've been warning them, I've been telling them, you know, destroy or be destroyed. That game, you're risking everything. And I keep on telling these little girls, you do not crapshoot, sit down at a high stakes poker game and crapshoot. Everything's on the line, and you keep on burning yourselves. So that's it for right now.